The forgotten botanist. I remember the day they kicked me out like it was yesterday. The sharp clang of the lab door slamming in my face, the scent of antiseptic and cold finality. Dr. Evelyn Hartland, my mentor and the face of the Institute for Advanced Research, stood frozen as Principal Adams slammed the record on the table. "This is unprofessional," he'd barked, his voice cracking through the sterile air like a whip. "You've tarnished the Institute's reputation. Leave, now." The words echoed in my skull long after I'd stuffed my things into a duffel bag and walked into the gray Washington, D.C. dawn. They told me I'd burn out. That urban foraging, scared up nettles in alleyways, studying dandelions in vacant lots, was a dead-end hobby for misfits who never fit anywhere. A disgrace to our family's legacy of legitimate careers. But I didn't burn out. I rebuilt. By day 21, I'd cataloged 117 edible species within a 3-block radius of my apartment. By month 6, I'd brewed a tea from wild meadowsweet that reportedly reduced chronic inflammation. By year 3, my rooftop garden in Atlanta began healing soil blighted by industrial runoff. People scoffed, called it hippie nonsense. But the cancer survivors my remedies helped, they didn't care what anyone thought. I didn't plan to come home. Not until the email arrived. A viral TED Talk request from National Geographic. The subject line read, "The botanist who greenlit cities." I hesitated, scrolling through photos of my childhood street, the cracked concrete, the shuttered storefronts where I'd once scavenged weeds while his siblings mocked my dirt-stained hands. They'd all grown into anchors of suburban conformity. Jed's law firm, Mara's hedge fund, Sister Zoe's VR startup. All chasing riches they'd never admit made them question their daddy's Paul Frank records. The address on the reply was rusted under my parents' old bungalow, papered with black mold. The front door answered before I spoke. My father stood there, his salt and pepper buzz cut the same tawny shade it'd been the day I got fired. His tie hung loose, a reptile claiming its own skin. Mother hovered behind him, clutching a ceramic plate of meatloaf like a lifeline. Grandpa fiddle-picked a spinal cord injury through the screen door. "It's about time you kids showed your faces," Dad drawled, eyes narrowing at my backpack. "We thought you'd skidded back to Maine." "Dad, this is—" "Save it," Mom interrupted, sweet as razors. "We're having dinner tonight." Not all at once. They barely exchanged glances. The gala opened at 7:30 p.m. in a cavernous atelier in Georgetown. I sat beside a senator's stage wife, my Instagram feed blurred on her phone. "You're that plant guy from Atlanta?" she asked, gesturing to my bamboo belt. The TED moderator, a balding tech bro with a gold watch, leaned forward. "How'd you shift from, how do we say this gracefully, from academia to nature witchcraft?" I smiled. "Did your students ever cure Alzheimer's with kudzu? Mine did." The room dented its complacency. My parents exchanged a glance now, pathetic envy, her mouth said, but they hid it behind polite sips of Chardonnay. By 11, the crowd thinned. As I stood to field questions about soil degradation, I spotted them, front row, tucked between donors. Dad slumped in a Windsor chair, Mother gossiping about the parish fate. I stopped smiling. Fathers. I remembered the Institute's boardroom, where they'd snickered over my alternative medicine grant proposal. Mothers. I thought of labs where my research was projected on dusty whiteboards as unimpactful. My mind plunged back to Dorothy's graduation, where the principal handed me my pink slip amid pepperoni grease-stained diplomas. The mockery, I sharpened my chin. "Sir, in the Balenciaga blazer," I interrupted, cutting to the question I'd prepped. "Do you realize your city's soils? 73% of Asian American enclaves here have arsenic in their basements." The man squirmed, his wife I insulted first. The final question hung in the air until a hand rose. A teenager, face half-lit by her phone. "You said your family called you embarrassment. Was that true?" The crowd leaned in. My parents stiffened. "Every Sunday dinner was a referendum on my failures," I said softly. "They'd critique my foraged herbs as unsafe, call my work backward." A tear slipped past my temple. till I turned their vacant lots into forests. Silence. Then applause, a tide, not a trickle. The moderator beamed. The senator's wife clapped harder. My parents froze, their wine glasses fogging. Heating bill for the venue had been a fluke, so I cold dialed them at 1:17 a.m. Dad. Mom, where are you? A tire squeal, their vintage Buick revving down the block. I unlatched the front door before they could project dignity. You're in Philadelphia, Dad rasped. Atlanta, I lied. Bring your hair out. They arrived at 3 a.m. Mom's hand trembled, clutching a box labeled roses. Dad's eyes flicked to my headlight through the diner window. 10 ultra-modern buildings clawing at the sky. I don't know when it hit them, dinner in the Botanical wasn't a charity event. They sat under a mosaic of my campus posters, where students from 89 countries beard meets meadow fashion, arguing over climate grants like it's the naked city. Mother raised her chin in the stall when I mentioned my parents, her shadow softening. You're not a kid anymore. But Jed swore he saw Dad flinch against the AC blast during carving, watching the heirloom pewter glints on my belt. Years later, over offset accounts of my TED Talk, my aunt whispered to Mom, "Did you see his hands?" The dinnerware clattered low, and she nodded, voice brittle. Same dirt-stained fingers. Now they bring fancier china. Last visit, Dad gifted me a silver trowel engraved with the Institute's crest. I laughed until my ribs ached. Mother's rewards burst in her eyes. I found the NIH letter today, wrapped in a library's yellowed pages. They just started accepting grant applications again. The first line, "In response to your groundbreaking work in phytoremediation," I paused, heart humming, then tucked the envelope under my soil testing journal, beside the half-melted heirloom ornament they'd thrown out by accident years ago. Tomorrow, I'm hosting a webinar on urban ecology.